Welcome into A to Z Sports, prime time on a Wednesday night. Hope everybody is doing well, feeling right. Hope you're ready to get into some Titans conversation over the course of this evening's show. 3 members will be added to the Titans Ring of Honor this coming fall. We're going to get into it at length and talk about who should be going in with them, because I do feel that these 3 names in particular should, of course, be honored, but that there are 2 names that I think need to go in with them as well. ASAP, yesterday, to be honest with you. But we will get into that over the course of this evening's show. We will also spend some time on favorite memories of Jeff Fisher and of Floyd Reese. Now, I don't think there's too many of us that go back long enough to remember the Bum Phillips era of the Love You Blue Houston Oilers, and maybe some of you are. So I don't want to unfairly characterize in that regard. But if you have memories of Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese, tonight will be the night to talk about them, because I've got some really good memories of one of these guys in particular. We'll talk about what one upgrade you would make to Nissan Stadium, because of course the Ring of Honor at Nissan Stadium is lackluster, to be specific, for all of you guys who have been to see a Titans game or to Nissan Stadium for any event in the last couple of years. We'll do all of that and more over the course of tonight's show. Before we get going, I need you to share this show on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. If you're hanging out with us on Twitter, go ahead and retweet this show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, it's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and it's the share button. Share now to public. That's how our Facebook friends get involved. If you are on YouTube or Twitch, subscribe to the A to Z Sports YouTube channel, where you can hang out with us and get all of our great content at least 6 days a week, with all of the live streaming products that we have to offer you. And now that more of you are here, we can go ahead and begin the show officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Wednesday. I'm your host, Buck Rising, from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. That is where you go since 1983, nearly 40 years serving the Middle Tennessee community with American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. The DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, the best in the business when it comes to getting in on all of the action. Make sure you check out all of the great promotions that they are offering to you. One in particular I'll tell you about later on in the show. Of course, the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. Your dream address without the stress is what the Ashton team offers to you, and the ability to sell your home for more with the intel that the Ashton team can provide at GaryAshton.com. Of course, Brymak Mechanical is where you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They will get you in your comfort zone. They will put you in a position to succeed at Brymak.com. Okay, so today, right about an hour before my radio show went on the air, we got the news that Floyd Reese, Jeff Fisher, and Bum Phillips would be going into the Titans Ring of Honor at Nissan Stadium at some point this fall. It's something that is long overdue, something that is well-deserved for all 3 of these men, and something that means a great deal to this organization. And I don't want to not make tonight's show about those 3, because we'll get to them in particular later. But what stood out to me in doing more research is that there are some names that I think absolutely have to be in the Titans Ring of Honor that are currently excluded. Now, at some point, they will probably be in this Ring of Honor. Whose timeline any of this stuff is on, I'm not smart enough to know. But I do want to talk about 2 names in particular that I think should have been in there yesterday, and we'll get to that over the course of this evening's broadcast. Your Two Rivers Ford take, though, is what we will start with in the comments on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. Who else belongs in the Titans Ring of Honor outside of the names that are already in there. I gave you 3 that will go in. You know some of the legends like Steve McNair and Eddie George. You know some of these people like George Blanda of the Houston Oilers era, because, of course, the Tennessee Titans in a former life were the Houston Oilers, and there's many who are in the Ring of Honor from those Houston teams. Bruce Matthews, another one. Who else belongs in the Titans Ring of Honor? Your Two Rivers Ford take. Let me know on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. While you guys do that, I'll tell you about the people who present the Two Rivers Ford take each and every night. That is our friends at Two Rivers Ford. They have been providing you exceptional customer service since 1983, and they will continue to do so now and into the future. Two Rivers Ford, where you can find the new electric Mach-E Mustang, the brand new F-150, the F-150 electric, well, the F-150 Lightning, the all-electric F-150 that will be rolling out next year, and my personal favorite, the 2021 Ford Bronco. Two Rivers Ford is where you can find all of those things, of course, and they will get you in a position to find the vehicle that fits your family's budget and your family's need. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. So who belongs in the Ring of Honor that's not already there? So DeZito, who we love to see, been a while, my brother, welcome back, says Steve McNair. Steve went in 2 years ago, remember, because the field caught on fire, the pyrotechnics issue with the honoring of Eddie George and Steve McNair posthumously, where they put their 2 numbers in the rafters at Nissan Stadium. Wycheck is also in there, juice box. Two Rivers Ford, Mayburn says, shout out, go get a new Ford Bronco. That's exactly right. You can go check out the Ford Bronco at Two Rivers Ford. My personal favorite. I can't wait until they have I like the Ford Bronco Sports, but I am more inclined for I think it's the Ford Bronco Badlands edition. Those I love, and I can't wait to test drive one in person once they start bringing them into the lot. Once they're so popular, people pre-order them. Keith Bullock and Brad Hopkins says John Bailey, both exceptional nominees. Zach Goodman says Taylor Lewan, Michael Roos, Kevin Mawai. Got to show some lineman love in there. Well, Mawai, I believe, is in there. I would have to double check that, but I am almost positive that Kevin Mawai, and I will look that up. In fact, let me look up the entirety of the Titans Ring of Honor right now so that I can make sure that I have all the names listed for you. I'm watching something. I'm reading an article right now that says from the Houston Chronicle, how dare you, Tennessee Titans, inducting Bum Phillips into the Ring of Honor, which is so stupid. That is, it's something that's already begun. But the Ring of Honor for the Tennessee Titans, they will go in. Kevin Mawai, I am searching. In fact, if producer Reed could do me a solid and see if he could find me a list of names that are in the Titans Ring of Honor, that would help me greatly. Reed, if you could text that to me that way. Okay, here we go. Steve McNair, Eddie George, Frank Wycheck. Oh, no. Okay, so this is just a list of people who Jeff Fisher brought into the Titans, or brought Floyd Reese and Jeff Fisher brought into the Titans organization. So I will need, if Reed could find me the full list so I can give an accurate assessment of who is in the Ring of Honor right now. Is it just players? Is Bud Adams not in there? Bud Adams is in there. He absolutely is, of course, the original owner of the Houston Oilers and the Tennessee Titans. Where can we find the list? Well, I don't know. I just sent producer Reed scrambling for it. I actually like you tonight, and I'm not comfortable with that feeling, says Proper Villains. Well, good. Too bad. Javon Curse, says John Torkington. Cortland Finnegan and the recent PA, says King Mofaka. The PA announcer, that'd be pretty cool, since he's done it since I think the team moved to town. Lorenzo Neal, says Jimmy Allen. That's a good one, who had a very, very famous play, of course, being heavily involved in the Music City Miracle. But the names, Taylor Lewan, it's too early. And I think Taylor will, if he keeps on this rate, he's going to have, it sounds funny to say, because he's been to 3 Pro Bowls. He obviously had the drug suspension, and then last year his season ended in injury. But he is somebody who could make a very good case for this franchise, assuming that he plays for a few more years here in Tennessee. Jake Locker and Zach Mettenberger, says Evan C. White. No, those two, they belong in the ring of shame, not the ring of honor, even though I love Zach Mettenberger and Marcus Mariota. Well, at least Marcus earned it a little more than the other two. No, the two names that I think belong in there that I was surprised to learn were not. This much I do know, is that Javon Curse, the Freak, and Mr. Monday Night, Keith Bullock, are not in the Titans Ring of Honor.
They don't give us respect, but we about to take it today. Watch.
Intercepted it once. Ball on the field. Picked up by Javon Curse. And Curse beating the defense. Curse is the guy that comes back and knocks the ball.
You want to see quickness? Boom! Make Richie try to block him and cut him off as the fullback.
Have all those things and watch it work out here. And good awareness. Slap the ball down.
Trying to run out of trouble, and he is nailed. There's Kennedy pushing to the outside. He sees Gannon running. Watch him strip the ball.
Tennessee, they call it Steeler Week, getting ready. Ordell from behind. Whizzes it up to the inside. Turns it up.
Keith Bullock and Javon Curse belong in the Titans Ring of Honor. Now, this is why I love this audience, because Puka, who's always on her game, was able to get me the list faster than Producer Reed. Producer Reed hearing footsteps about his job. Tough scene. Puka's on her game, because the names that are currently in the Ring of Honor, outside of the three that will be added this fall, Frank Wycheck, Eddie George, Steve McNair, KS, Bud Adams, Elvin Bethea, George Blanda, Earl Camber, Mike Holovac, Ken Houston, Mike Munchak, Jim Norton, Warren Moon, and Bruce Matthews. That is what currently consists, 13 members currently, soon to be 16, of the Titans Ring of Honor at Nissan Stadium. When is the last time our Titans have seen a pass rush like Curse's rookie season? I mean, you guys had nobody is Javon Curse, right? Kyle Vanden Bosch, for a while there, was able to provide you some kind of a pass rush. It was never anything like what Curse was. There was that weird, I can't remember the name of the dude that had the white dude that had the tribal tat, who played like 1 year for the Jets, had an incredible, he had like an all-pro season for the Titans off the edge. Was it Jason Babin? Jason Babin sounds right. Robert Brazil is a good one, says David Brown, but we're talking about since Javon Curse played for the Titans. I'm pretty sure Jason Babin is the name that I'm thinking of. But all of those names currently, thank you, Robert Deerfish, Travis LeBoy, says Ryan Allen. The answer is you haven't had one since then, Titans for life. Jason Babin is the closest I think that you've come in a long time, and Babin from Philadelphia then went to the Jets, if I remember correctly, because I remember Jason Babin at the end of his career, and he did have a short stint here in Tennessee. Big Jeff will be on that list, says Mayburn Wright. It's possible. I mean, listen, Jeffrey Simmons is not he's an interior defensive lineman, and he has the potential to be great, but it is difficult for an interior defensive lineman to have the success that an edge rusher, that a pure, in the case of Javon Curse, 4-3 edge rusher would be able to have, or an outside linebacker like Bud Dupree. It's just difficult to create that pressure on the inside. Brian Arakpo was decent for a bit, says Robert Deerfish. He was okay, but nobody has been the Freak, and nobody has been Keith Bullock. since then. You guys have had many great defensive players. The Titans have had many great defensive players over the course of their franchise history and, dating back to the 60s, in 1960, in fact, when the Houston Oilers began as a franchise. How about Algie Crumpler, says Jeff Roberts. That would be a good nominee. JP Taryn says one of my favorite hitters, Blaine Bishop, belongs in the Ring of Honor. I mean, there's a lot of names that do belong on this list, okay, or in this this Ring of Honor, not Hall of Fame. But there are a lot of guys that I think deserve a nomination. Hainsworth is probably another one of them. Hainsworth was unstoppable for 2 seasons, says John Torkington. But what 2 seasons? What a couple of seasons they were. But the two that, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, should have been in there yesterday. It's not too late to send them in with Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese and Bum Phillips. I think that Javon Curse and Mr. Monday Night Keith Bullock absolutely need to be in the Titans Ring of Honor. Let me know in the comment section on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch how you guys feel about it. Which names do you believe belong in the Titans Ring of Honor, going back to the Houston Oilers? And I'll tell you a fun fact about the Ring of Honor momentarily, right after I tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is my favorite sportsbook and also America's top-rated sportsbook app. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook because it's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Don't forget that DraftKings Sportsbook also offers great odds and promotions on baseball. Well, there's no more hockey. There's basketball currently, and the Olympics. They have promotions that they will be offering you when Team USA heads to Tokyo in less than a week, I do believe. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code A to Z Sports when you sign up to turn $1 into $150 in free credits. Bet on the basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you will claim $150 in free credits with promo code A to Z Sports for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. The fine folks at DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code A to Z Sports. Mike Keith and Derek Mason, says Donovan Romaine. Derek Mason and Titans fans, now you guys would be able to tell me, I have a lot of love for Derek Mason. I used to work with Derek Mason. I also used to work with Floyd Reese, and I'll talk more about Floyd when we get to the second part of the show. Louis Medina says you need to get Blake Bedingfield on the radio show. He should be in the Ring of Honor as well. I've never met Blake. I know Blake's history with the organization. I also know that there were a lot of things, and this is, I say this with all due respect because Blake Bedingfield has forgotten more about football than I will probably ever know. But there was a lot of stuff, frankly, that I disagreed with Blake on, like the idea, and this is an example that it's easy to cite because it's the worst of the offenses. But the idea that Blake Bedingfield at one time said that A.J. Brown would be inactive at points during his rookie season for reasons that were inexplicable to me, made absolutely no sense. And so it's not like it doesn't completely discredit the entirety of Blake Bedingfield's work. Blake and I follow each other on Twitter, and I look at his analysis every once in a while when the Titans are doing something or when the draft comes around, because he was a scout for 19 years for that organization. But I think we've got a pretty good stable of people to pull from. Well, I shouldn't say that. Let me look into it, Lewis. I don't know if he should be in the Ring of Honor, but let me look into seeing when might be appropriate to have Blake Bedingfield on the show. I don't know if it's a conflict though, because Kaharski, I think Blake still writes for Kaharski's website, so I don't know if the Zone would be cool with anymore having an employee of Paul's website now that Paul left the radio station on the Zone. That's probably something I got to look into too before I speak from a point of ignorance. Mark Anthony Perez with the throwback. Ernest Givens. Now, when I was learning about the history of this organization, when I first got the opportunity to cover the Titans, I went back and learned about a lot of these guys, Elvin Bethea and Ernest Givens and George Blanda. There were so many great players in the history of this franchise, long before it moved to Tennessee. Ernest Givens was one of them. Dan Pastorini, another one, says Lewis Chesney. Brad Limford says, I rebuke any shade thrown on Arthur Juan Brown, A.J. Brown. Speaking, by the way, well, I'm conflicted because I can't tell you guys what's happening with this new content that I'm going to be producing every week until tomorrow at I think 7:30 is when I saw that there will be a press release. So I can't tell you what's in the press release, but what I can tell you is that you guys are going to flock to this. And it's not just because I'm a part of it. In fact, it has very little to do with the fact that I'm a part of it. But all I will say to you is be paying attention to social media around 7:30 a.m. Central Time tomorrow morning, because there's an exciting announcement, a new project that I'm a part of, because I don't got enough to do on a regular basis. But this was something, when they approached me about it, it was too good for me to pass up. And so I will be able to tell you about this finally tomorrow. I'm very excited. Jimmy Allen says, if Dyson doesn't get a chance, it's a shame. Kevin Dyson, by the way, will be on the radio show tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone. So make sure that you're listening. I believe Dyson is on at 10:20. But what I will say to you is Kevin Dyson, for all of the history that is associated with Kevin Dyson and Wycheck and Lorenzo Neal, just for that one specific play, they deserve a spot in the Ring of Honor themselves. But I want to talk about favorite memories of the three men who are going in, because we're having this conversation tonight because three men are going into the Titans Ring of Honor: Jeff Fisher, Floyd Reese, and Bum Phillips. We'll get into that. And the question that I want to ask you guys on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, not everybody, I think the majority of people, and I don't mean this as disrespect towards Bum Phillips, because the legend, the son of Bum, with Wade Phillips and all that Bum Phillips, all the history that Bum Phillips has with this organization and with the Adams family, the Love You Blue Houston Oilers and all of the great success that they were able to have. But he predates a lot of us. At least I think so. Maybe you guys have Bum Phillips memories that you would like to put in the chat on Facebook Live and Periscope, YouTube, or on Twitch. But I think for the last 20 years of the organization, probably we should just do which Titans legend do you have the best memories of? And listen, they did a lot of great work together, so maybe these two cannot be exclusive with one another. But which Titans legend who is going into the Ring of Honor this fall do you have the best memories of? Jeff Fisher or Floyd Reese? Let me know on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. We'll talk about it over the course of this evening, right after I tell you about our friends at Brymak Mechanical. BRYMAK, Brymak.com. That's where you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They will put you in a position to succeed. They will put you in your comfort zone this summer. Brymak Mechanical, main location in Clarksville, 3 locations servicing Tennessee and Kentucky. BRYMAK, Brymak.com. All right. Best memories of Fisher or Floyd. Now, you may not have memories that include one without the other because of all of the great work that the two of them did during their time together, not just with the Titans organization, but with the Houston Oilers as well. Unpopular opinion, says Juicebox678. Fisher was the epitome of average, not a great coach. So, Juicebox, maybe locally that's an unpopular opinion. I think largely Jeff Fisher is looked at, from a national standpoint. Now we're looking at this from a local level, but I think that you would not get a lot of pushback from people outside the city of Nashville on the statement that you made about Jeff Fisher. The 8-8 jokes, the 9-7 jokes, the 7-9 jokes, they're tired by now, and they can no longer exist because the schedule is being expanded to where you can't have those records anymore. But Jeff Fisher is the all-time winningest coach in the history of the Tennessee Titans organization. So on a local level, and he is the only Titans coach with a Super Bowl appearance, even though they did not get a win, a Super Bowl appearance on his resume, Jeff Fisher, nationally, people probably regard him as average or below average. Here locally, he is regarded as the person who brought the NFL, or one of the people who brought the NFL to Nashville, Tennessee. And for that, there has to be some appreciation of who Jeff Fisher is and was. Fisher memory, says Titans for Life, when he claimed to have 2 NFL homes, Tennessee and Jacksonville. Yes. John Torkington on Facebook Live says, I think Fisher was a great coach, but the game passed him by later in his career, which unfortunately gave him the stereotype of being average. Easy to have the most wins after 15 seasons, says Easy E. There's no disputing that. He has lasted longer than any other Titans coach in the history of this franchise. So you can look at it that way as well. And I'll pull up his total record here in Tennessee just so I have those numbers for you, because it's close to 500, Jeff Fisher's record as a head coach of the Tennessee Titans, but it is a winning record, and he does have the most wins in the history of the organization. So he has 147 wins, 142 in the regular season, 5 in the postseason from 94 to 2010. Jeff Fisher's win-loss record, I'm looking at the email that the Titans PR sent us earlier. They don't include his losses, which is a heady play by them. But 147 total wins, the winningest coach in the history of the franchise. It seems that I will not be able to, at least by looking at my email, find how many losses he amassed just here in Tennessee, not in total, with his time with the St. Louis Rams and then on later, finally, with the Los Angeles Rams. Earl Campbell is on there already, says Mark Anthony Perez. Yes, Earl Campbell is in the Ring of Honor. See, 5 playoff wins in 15 years. Not good, says Juicebox. Playoff appearances, obviously, they don't count for much if you don't win a playoff game. You can ask Mike Vrabel about postseason appearances versus postseason wins. Now, Mike already has to his name, let's see, 3 that I can think of two postseason wins for Mike Vrabel. I believe Vrabel is 2-2 in the postseason right now, because 2018 they didn't make the playoffs. 2019 they beat the Patriots and the Ravens, lost to the Chiefs. Then they lost last year to the Baltimore Ravens, so Vrabel would be 2-2 in the postseason. So Vrabel, heading into 4 years, has almost half as many postseason wins as Jeff Fisher across 15 years, which is a good stat to point out. Again, I think that you can look at Jeff Fisher's career in probably 3 different phases of life. And what he did to keep the franchise, help keep the franchise afloat while they were moving from Houston to Tennessee, and really Houston to Memphis, and then Memphis to Vandy, and then finally Vandy to Nissan Stadium or Adelphia Coliseum at the time. Fisher also stuck with some subpar QBs over that time as well, says Titans for Life. Floyd Reese in 1999 broke up Fisher's brother-in-law coaching staff, and that is why they went to the Super Bowl. He started great, got too into himself. Les Steckel made us, says James Henderson. Les Steckel and the coordinators. I mean, we talk a lot about the coordinators in the history of this franchise, whether you're talking about Les Steckel or Jim Schwartz, and guys who have achieved at a high level throughout the course of history here. Only difference between Vrabel and Fisher is the shades, and that Vrabel would go for it and Fisher would kick the field goal on 4th and goal, says Jimmy Allen. I don't know. 4th and 2. Mike punted last year, something that you guys have not been so quick to forget. But my favorite memory of Jeff Fisher or Floyd Reese. So I have this. You can't count my Jeff Fisher memory as a memory, but it's just a funny situation that happened with me and Fisher. I'll do Fisher first because I have actual Floyd Reese memories here in just a second. But Jeff Fisher was starting a podcast a couple of years ago, and I hit up Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio, who comes on with me every Friday. I think that Coach Mack is going to have Jeff Fisher with him when he joins my radio show for his weekly appearance on Friday. So we'll keep you guys up to date on that. Jeff Fisher still hanging out. Bring back to the Ring of Honor Mike Heimerdinger, says Juicebox 678. Also a great offensive coordinator in Titans history. But Fisher, so I tried to get Fisher on the podcast, but this was before the radio show, and we don't do primetime. We don't do guests on the primetime show. So I hit up Coach Mack, and Coach Mack said, hang on, give me a second. So he calls Jeff Fisher on a satellite phone. On a satellite phone, because one, Jeff Fisher leaves his phone on Do Not Disturb. Probably wise to do so if you're somebody who's as famous as Jeff. And he cannot normally be reached unless you have the bat phone, which Coach Mack, of course, having worked so long with Jeff Fisher, has access to the bat phone. So he calls Jeff Fisher on a satellite phone. Jeff Fisher answers the satellite phone on a fishing boat in Mexico with Gus Malzahn. And Mac, while Jeff Fisher is deep sea fishing with Gus Malzahn on the satellite phone, Mac is telling him, hey, this Buck guy, he wants you on his show. He's legit. And well, these are Coach Mac's word, and this is I'm not calling myself legit. I'm just regaling the conversation as Coach Mac told it to me before I sound too much like a D-bag. But Jeff Fisher says, okay, Mac, I'll do the interview. Now, the interview, as you probably know, never ended up happening because Jeff Fisher is an impossible human being to pin down. I would call Coach Fisher. It would go straight to voicemail because his phone's on Do Not Disturb. Jeff Fisher would butt dial me many times. I probably got 6 or 7 butt dials from Jeff Fisher where he clearly had no idea that he had called me back. Then one time he left me a voicemail. Coach, we got on the phone, and Jeff Fisher and I had a 20-minute conversation, which I should have just recorded, with what Jeff Fisher has been doing and how he'd love to do the podcast. And then we were never able to connect again after that. But my real legitimate memories, that's just a funny instance of interaction with Jeff Fisher where he's butt dialing me in the middle of the night like 6 or 7 times. But with Floyd Reese, I have so much love for that man. When I first moved down here, maybe some of you guys don't know this because you're newer to the proceedings or you haven't been around as long as well, most of you have been around as long as I've been around. I've only been in Nashville coming up on 6 years. But when I first got down here in 2015, I was an unpaid intern at 102.5 The Game. 102.5 The Game is where Floyd Reese used to have a radio show with my buddy Jared Stillman. Now, I know many people don't like Jared Stillman, but Jared is a friend of mine. So, I understand why you don't like him. There are reasons why I don't like him when he does the things that he does on the radio. But I used to tell Jared that he's the thing that I hate the most about what this profession is. But anyway, so Floyd, this was before Floyd and Jared had the show. Floyd was still doing a show with Willie Donick and George Plaster. So I'm a lowly unpaid intern. I had no idea who Floyd Reese was when I first got to 102.5. But when I would intern with their show, before they started paying me to work overnights, midnight to 6 a.m. for like $10 an hour. It was a terrible situation, but it was a good opportunity for me to get my start. Floyd would take time to talk to me about the history of the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Oilers, and talk to me about context that I did not have as somebody who was not from Tennessee, who moved to Tennessee, who really had no background in the NFL and was getting ready to, without any qualifications, cover an NFL team. I was so unqualified to be. You guys, every one of you could have done a better job being a Titans reporter the way that I did it when I first got here. But it was fun to learn from people like Floyd. He would always do, I used to have the 615 Sessions podcast feed is the original podcast that I started myself in those overnight shifts that I was paying for myself just so I could get on air reps and not really on air, just sitting in a podcast studio alone in the middle of the night at a station out in Antioch, right? But Floyd, anytime I asked Floyd to come on, he would always do it. He was always very gracious with his time. And he would take that time to help me learn about the job that I was getting ready to do. Now, the radio station didn't know at the time that I was going to do that job because I just started going to Titans practice, really. And they at one time very much discouraged me from continuing to do it. And that's a big part of the reason why I left, because they were trying to cut back on my pay to keep from paying me as much to do, to cover the Titans on top of everything else that I was doing as a part-time producer. But Floyd was always there for me. And I miss Floyd a lot. And he seems to have really gone off the grid. I hope that he is doing well. I texted him the other day, and I unfortunately did not get a chance to hear back from him. So I don't know what's going on with Floyd. I hope that he's sitting on a beach somewhere with Sally and he's chilling out and he's doing much better things than reading text from people who I'm sure are congratulating him right now. But I have a lot of love for that man, and I know a lot of you guys do too, for a different reason. But it was my great privilege to be able to work with Floyd Reese in my first gig, fresh out of college, and to learn about the NFL from somebody like that made a big difference for me. A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. What are your favorite memories of Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese? Lakes Jets says Jeff Fisher is a Titans legend. Anyone arguing this needs to call Stillman and Company. Stillman and Company. I have not heard the newest edition of Jared's show. Just because when I leave work, I don't listen to sports talk radio, man. I got way too much sports in my life to listen to sports when I'm not talking about sports. And that's no shot at Jared. I would, if I wasn't doing this for a living, I would listen to Jared show. Now I know Jared listens to my show because Jared will blow me up sometimes when I say something that he disagrees with, that he wants to argue with me about via text instead of on the air because he can't come on the zone with me. But Mayburn Wright says, man, I listen to the zone from 10 to 1. I appreciate that, Mayburn. I appreciate all of you guys who listen to the primetime show, to the 615 sessions, and to the radio show, and hopefully who will enjoy consuming this new venture that you will hear more about in a press release at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. Clayton Smith says, I played with Jeff Fisher's son, Trent. I'm the first in the first East-West All-Star game. Got to see Jeff at the game. That's really cool, Clayton. That's a good memory to have. Let's move on. The show is a little late tonight, and I don't want to keep you guys much later because there's an NBA Finals game on right now. But I want to talk about the one thing that you would upgrade at Nissan Stadium. Let me know on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, what's the one part, if you had to choose one, there are a lot of things at Nissan Stadium that need a facelift, but if you had to choose one thing, what would you upgrade at Nissan Stadium? Let me know in the comments on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. While you guys do that, I'll tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of Remax Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress, where you go to sell your home for more with the Gary Ashton team. They are the best in the business. They are the official real estate agent of the Titans, the Preds, and A to Z Sports Prime Time. Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of Remax Advantage at GaryAshton.com. Dump truck, the NBA, says King Mafaka. I like the NBA. And it's tied up right now, 52 all between the Suns and the Bucks in game. What is this? Game 5. Excuse me. This is game 4. Game 5 there will be a game 5 because the Bucks won game 3. Walkway between the upper sections, says Puka. So this is a point of ignorance for me, Puka, because I've never been to the upper section, and I don't mean to say that to sound like a douche. I've just never. I go to the press box. That's the only place that I've ever been in Nissan Stadium. Well, I've been in the lower bowl because of COVID, because we weren't allowed on the field during the COVID season. So we were restricted to the lower bowl for us to be able to do our pregame activities as media. So between the lower bowl and the press conference, or the press box, and then, underneath the stadium, those are the only places that I've been. Karen O'Keefe says, get a dome for Nissan Stadium. Lewis Chesney would upgrade the riverfront, which is something that they're getting ready to, by the way, to renovate Nissan Stadium in a big way, it sounds like, over the next couple of years, which is exciting because it is long overdue. But what I will say to you is the one thing that I would upgrade at Nissan Stadium is the fact that there is no protection from the elements. None whatsoever. You basically, for all of the noon games that the Titans play during the regular season, and the fact that it is largely very hot here up until mid-October and sometimes into November, there is no protection from the sun in Nissan Stadium, in that stadium, on the riverfront. You will roast out there when you go to a game in the middle of the day. I could not possibly imagine what it is like to sit in those stands. I would never, ever do it, but I'm spoiled that way, and I have the option to not do it. So that's not, again, I don't mean to sound like a jerk, even though I just sounded like a jerk. It's just the lack of protection from the sun is something that I think is a glaring indictment of Nissan Stadium, and something that I think they need to fix the most out of all the things that need to be done to upgrade that giant hunk of concrete that's sitting on the East Bank. Absolutely. It needs to be, there needs to be some kind of shelter from the element. Domes ruin all the stadiums, all outdoor sports, as MNCY. I'm not saying a dome. I'm just saying, like, so in Miami, what is it called now? Hard Rock Stadium? Miami, where the Dolphins play, it's an open air stadium, but there are overhangs like over the top of the grandstands. The field itself, unfortunately for the players, is still basically in the sun, but the seats in the stadium are covered to some degree. Now, I'm sure not all of them are covered, but there is an overhang, like it's like a white overhang that surrounds the perimeter. It's a square perimeter of Hard Rock Stadium that at least gives you some relief from the sun down there in South Florida. I'm not saying that it is something that needs to be domed. I don't want a closed roof or a like Lucas Oil where it's a retractable roof. I think that it is best played outside. Just need the canopies, the overhang canopies, as Puka says, common for soccer stadiums. Absolutely something Nissan Stadium needs to implement. It's okay to roast we Tennessee people. At least Jimmy Allen is okay with it. That's fine, Jimmy. I can't live that way, but I don't go to these games as a fan. I go to these games for work. I'm lucky enough to go to these games as a part of my job. Robert Deerfish says, what's the worst opposing stadium you've been to? So that's a good question. Now, I never went to the old Oakland, what is it called? Oco Coliseum, where it sounded like there was like raw sewage running through the mezzanine and shit. And I said it in shit like that, no pun intended. I don't know that there was actually raw sewage. I'm making a joke there. I never went to Oco, but for me, the worst opposing stadium is Jacksonville. Now, I say this because I don't know what it's like to sit in the stands in Jacksonville. I know what it's like to sit in the press box in Jacksonville. It rains a lot in Jacksonville. The press box in Jacksonville leaks. In fact, I remember Kaharski and Eric Bacharach, who used to cover the Titans for the Tennessean, their laptops got dripped on because the ceiling of the press box was leaking on us. You could not see the game. I remember very specifically the last time I was down there. It was the 2019 Week 3 Thursday night football game where Marcus Mariota looked like absolute hell, and Adoree Jackson muffed I think it was a punt return that he muffed that ended up being taken against the Titans for a touchdown. So the game, it was one of the worst games that season. Very, very difficult to watch. But you couldn't see half of it because we needed windshield wipers on the press box windows. There was no way to see out of that. So between the leaks, the food was also horrendous. And, this is, again, snobbery talking, because my experience is a lot different than most people's experience. But yeah, that is my least favorite of the stadiums. Jacksonville, Florida sucked and continues to suck, because I'm sure maybe Urban will do something about it. Maybe that's the one thing that Urban can do. Urban, by the way, got subpoenaed today. I don't know how many people saw that. We'll talk about that more on the radio show tomorrow. John Bertotti says, I know Mike Keith got his notes ruined in the game there one year because they got flooded. That's what I'm saying. Like, that stadium it's a water hazard. It's terrible. More beer and wings for Slay. Go Titans, LOL, says Mayburn Wright. I don't know about beer and wings for Slay at a Titans game, but I'm sure he is. I'm sure he would be the one to bring the beer and wings. Ticket prices are crazy high this year for the lower bowl. Comes with winning and hype, says Clayton Smith. Listen, if they're going to jack up tickets this year, and everybody is probably, I don't know that everybody is raising their ticket prices. But they missed out on a lot of revenue this year. So if they're trying to catch up a little bit, I think it's already out an outrageous amount of money to go to an NFL football game, based on what I understand people pay to go to NFL football games and like actually have decent seats. But it's unfortunate that they're raising the prices just when everybody's getting ready to flood back in. But that's why they're raising the prices, because everybody's getting ready to flood back in. Has Slay beer at the Preds game been turned into a GIF yet? Says Robert Deerfish. I don't know. That's a good question for Slay. Great. I'm going to Jacksonville game in October. Maybe Karen, maybe the seats are nice. I don't know. I don't know about the outdoor experience in Jacksonville. All I know is I hate their press box. And that's the only worldview that I have in terms of hanging out at NFL games. Jimmy Allen says, Buck, just say we all friends so we can catch a discount. Listen, for as hard a time as I give the Titans, and a lot less hard of a time in the last 2 years since they've been really winning at a high level, there hadn't been a lot bad to say about them. But certainly my first couple of years, they probably hated me because I was not very nice about how I covered the Tennessee Titans. Anyway, I always appreciate hanging out with you guys. Thank you for being here and being active Sunday through Thursday night. One more show to do in this primetime week. Again, 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. The Zone, not A to Z, the Zone, although A to Z I think will be able to get some benefit from this as well, because there is, of course, a strategic partnership with A to Z in the Zone. And that's how I came to work for both, because there was a strategic partnership brokered to where I could do both of these things. There will be a great announcement tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Look for a press release. Look for something that you're going to love every week through the football season and beyond. We did the first edition of this new project today, right after my radio show. And I think you guys are going to enjoy it, because not because I'm doing it. Although if I provide you some enjoyment as well, that makes me happy to hear. This has very, very little to do with me, only that I was asked to be a part of this project, and I am hype about it. So make sure you're hanging out. You sound like V from Vendetta, says Evan C. White. No, because I don't wear the mask. Well, I wear the mask, but I don't wear the mask. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, enjoy the rest of your evening. Content always available for you at A2ZSportsNashville.com. I wrote an article today about the 7 Titans who made it in the ESPN top 10 positional lists. Go check that out at A2ZSportsNashville.com if you so choose. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy these NBA Finals games. I will see you tomorrow for one last time this week, and then it'll be the weekend. And it's my birthday weekend. So we'll see if I end up coming back Sunday or not. Peace and love.
No!